What up, everyone? Welcome back to Blade Bias. Oh, look, it's a Prisma Pro and a SlifT. I don't even know why I'm trying to make this like suspenseful. You guys already saw the video where I was flipping the SlifT trainer. So I finally got around to swapping around the blades from all the things that Ted sent over. And let me tell you, it has somehow only increased my respect for what Machine Wise as a company does with their products, because this not only was some of the most fun that I have ever had maintaining a balisong, but it was just like, it was easy. You look at a Machine Wise product and you probably are like, wow, those tolerances are crazy. I would imagine it would be really difficult to take apart and put back together, which like is probably a fair take because the Vulp is a balisong that, I mean, I'm not knocking on the Vulp. It's $65, so obviously it's going to be this way. But the Vulp doesn't have the best tolerances, and it is a nightmare to take apart and put back together. I can tell you that. So I was like, oh gosh, this is going to be even worse. Like most of my channel balisongs, I barely take apart because they're just so annoying. Machine Wise products, nope. You get these stellar tolerances, and they come apart and they go together so easily. Besides a few little hiccups with me like being distracted with stream and like flipping around a washer or something, or the pivot not exactly fitting in here without maybe a little bit of hammering. That was an incredible experience. And the fact that everything flipped well was just insane. So I have two specific ones here, and I'm not done. I will be doing a further video where I put, where I put the Opus blade on the Prisma. I'm just not doing that yet since that's how Ted wants me to send it back to him. So I figure once I put on the Opus blade, I should probably be done messing with the Prisma. But these, oh my goodness. So what I tried is I swapped these two, obviously. And then I also tried the Opus blade on the SlifT. Now I think I'll talk about the Opus blade on the SlifT when I put the Opus blade on the Prisma. So right now we're going to talk about this. Prisma Pro with SlifT blade and the SlifT with the Prisma blade. Because this is an excellent swap. Excellent. I would probably be lying if I told you that I didn't like either one of these more than their original forms. I think I prefer the SlifT on the Prisma Pro handles, and I think I prefer the Prisma blade on the SlifT handles. It's just, oh my gosh, it's so good. So the SlifT on the Prisma Pro, if you go on Dalen's website, there's actually a section where he goes over all his products, and there's a little Easter egg that says that for anyone that finds themselves on the Prisma Pro page, the Prisma Pro handles with the addition of a SlifT or Serif blade might be their best offering in terms of flipping. And I can totally see why. This thing is basically dead neutral, fans amazingly, rollovers amazingly, is really light and controllable to the point of like almost being too light, but we'll get into that later. This is phenomenal. The balance alone, if we just take the balance and the flipping in a vacuum, it is incredible. It's really, really good. Now, I don't really like that I have to give up my titanium handles to achieve a flipping experience like this, but I am very happy to see a Bowie blade have this good of a flipping experience, because usually Bowie blades, while I vastly prefer them in terms of looks to Tonto blades, I usually think that Tonto blades flip a little better because they have extra tip weight. But this does not feel like it's lacking tip weight at all. It feels basically dead neutral. Like, again, I have trouble calling things dead neutral because it's so difficult to really find something that is truly neutral. But oh my gosh, it feels so good. Without the weights, it's a bit too light for my taste. It introduces a tiny, tiny bit of blade bias, but it's still really good. I don't think it stops flipping well by any means. My biggest problem with this is just the weight. It's sort of like bushings versus bearings, where bushings are a little more controllable and bearings have like that frictionless, like uncontrollable feel. That's almost what I feel with the SlifT on the Prisma Pro handles because it is so light. Like when you have a balisong that's a live blade that's this light, I don't necessarily feel like I can control it as well as a live blade that's a little bit heavier. Now, that's not a bad thing. It's not a deal breaker at all. I can still flip it perfectly fine. But it just doesn't feel as controllable to me because when I have a live blade, I usually like it to have a little bit more weight in the overall thing. For a trainer, it's fine. Like, that's why the Prisma Pro is so good because this has less tip weight, so it feels just a little bit lighter than a Prisma Pro, which is weird, but we'll explain it when we get to the SlifT. But ignoring all that, those nitpicks, it's stellar. My biggest complaint with it is just that I don't really feel comfortable EDCing a 6061 aluminum live blade. You know, like I would much rather in my pocket have a titanium live blade to use as a knife than a 6061 aluminum. But other than that, this is a flipper, and it is a really damn good flipper. Now, moving on to the SlifT P, I guess you would call it, the SlifT Trainer. This is also stellar. I also prefer this to its original version because it has everything that's great about the SlifT. It's very controllable. It's very light. It's very agile. It rings amazing. It's just like everything that I love about the SlifT, but it fixes the one problem that I had with it, and that is that the SlifT lacked a little bit of tip weight so that it didn't fan as well. Well, say goodbye to that because this thing makes up that tip weight in a way that is just amazing. Now, I can't lie in saying that just being able to flip a SlifT without having to worry about being cut and all of that is just a really enjoyable experience on its own. It's genuinely really good. But the balance the better balance that you get from the tip weight is just, it's so nice. Now let's talk really quickly about that tip weight because the SlifT blade is actually slightly heavier than the Prisma blade. The Prisma blade comes in at 1.1 ounces, whereas the SlifT blade comes in at 1.12. So there is a 0.02 difference in the 0.02 ounce difference in the two blades, with the Prisma being a little lighter. But when you put the trainer blade on the SlifT, it almost ends up feeling a little bit heavier because the Prisma blade is more tip-based in its weight distribution, and the SlifT is not. The SlifT doesn't have a lot of weight in the tip, whereas the Prisma does. So it makes it feel just a little bit heavier for some reason. And I mean, because of the tip weight, but I'm not really sure why the tip weight would make it feel heavier. But it does. It just feels like ever so slightly heavier. Maybe it's just because the tip is now carrying more momentum, which makes it feel a little less like crazy agile. But I'll take that trade if it means better fans all day. This is stellar. If I had to compare this to the live blade SlifT, I would say that if you have the trainer and you put the weights in, it's roughly equivalent to the live blade with the weights out, if that makes any sense. You've got a little bit of handle bias there. Obviously, the trainer blade is going to have more tip weight than the live blade, but in terms of like balance and how the handles carry momentum and all of that, it feels relatively similar to the live blade without the weights. And then you take out the weights on the SlifT trainer, and it just becomes like, it's obviously still a little handle biased. You can still feel that it's like it wants to glue to your finger in chaplains and rollovers, but because it has that extra tip weight and fans feel better, it just makes it feel a little more neutral, even though it really isn't. Because at the end of the day, you did take weight out of the blade. It's 0.02 ounces, so it's basically like, it doesn't matter, but that is still a loss of weight. So it's not going to be more neutral in practice or in theory, but in practice it just feels a little more neutral because you get that extra tip weight and it just feels really good. I am a huge fan of it. This is This is probably my favorite trainer on the market now. I know I said that about the Prisma Pro, but you add that little bit of extra weight and the titanium and the looks of the SlifT, and it's just like, damn. That's a really good flipper right there. It flips really, really well. I don't like how the Prisma blade looks on it, to be honest. I think it looks far too skeletonized and weird. But I am more than willing to give that up because it just flips so well. So, like, wow. Machine-wise, literally just by switching two of my knives around, I have found my new favorite aluminum live blade and my new favorite trainer. It just astounds me that these two are the same price. I don't want to knock on the Nemesis at all. The Nemesis is still very good. But everything that I liked about the Nemesis, the fact that it feels handle biased, and even though it still fans well and all that, it just gets outshone by the SlifT. The SlifT just fans better, rollovers better, feels a little bit better in the hands because it's a thicker handles. Feels a little bit better because it's a little longer, and that's what I'm used to now at this point. And it's like, if you can get one of these, I think these retail for $300. This is an incredible value. Obviously, the Prisma live blade over here isn't as much of a crazy value because you're paying essentially $400 for the SlifT and then another $150 for the Prisma Pro. If you wanted to make them yourself, I'm sure if Dalen sold these on their own, they'd be cheaper than that. But we're talking about like a $400 live blade, I guess, kind of, not really, but like, you know what I'm trying to get at. It still flips really good, but I certainly wouldn't be someone who says, yeah, definitely go buy a SlifT and then trade it with a Prisma. Would I say that actually? I might say that because then essentially it's like you paid $150 for this and $400 for this. I don't know if this is a $400 trainer, but it's certainly a $350 trainer. And then this is definitely a $150 live blade. But weird approximations of value aside, both of these are incredible. And the fact that it is such a seamless process to switch all of Dalen's knives around and make your own custom, like, oh, I'm going to put the Opus blade on the Prisma handles. Oh, I don't really like that. I want a little less tip weight. I'm going to put the SlifT on there. It's like, that's just crazy. And it's easy and it's fun. And it's like, oh my gosh, I only like Machine-Wise even more now, which is crazy because, like, crazy. I was crazy once. But, like, I wasn't crazy once because now I'm, like, crazy for Machine-Wise. But, like, I wasn't crazy before and now I'm crazy. I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying. Yeah, they're both really good. If you take anything from the video, just take that away. Anyway, thank you all for watching. I'll have videos about the Opus at a later date. But until then, I'll see you in the next one. Later.